We used to go to Florida and stuff, like oh, he didn't mean to do that.
Hi. Basically, what I did is I started typing, and I thought I was typing in the bar above the Avenue of the Oaks. I was typing in our Google Meets bar, and it just like, I'll cut that out. I'll cut that out. Anyways.
You're listening to Enhance, the podcast dedicated to highlighting real stories told by real people.
Hello, Enhance listeners. It is Sam, your host, and I just wanted to hop on before we start the episode and just give a little bit of a trigger warning and a heads up that in this episode we talk a lot about mental health and can talk about things that are potentially triggering to some people. We do mention suicidal ideation and struggling with that. We also talk about drug usage, specifically weed, and I talk about my past with smoking weed and using it whenever I was in college. This is not condoning the use of illegal drugs whatsoever. If you are afraid that this episode may be too triggering for you to listen to, that is totally okay. You should not feel pressured, and feel free to just sit out until next time and listen to another episode of Enhance that may not be as heavy of a topic for you. But without further ado, here is the episode.
Hello, Enhance listeners. Thank you so much for tuning back into another episode of Enhance Season 2. And today I have a very special guest that I'm very excited to have on. Today here with me is Vanessa. Vanessa, if you want to say hi and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I am on TikTok, and that's how we met. My TikTok username is Vanessa May 623, and I can't wait. I'm really excited, and I'm very happy to do this.
Yes, she laughs at memes. So
I do. I love
she does
memes.
other stuff too. She does other stuff too, but that's how I found that was actually the first video I ever saw of you, was you laughing at memes, and I was like, follow. So it was great.
Well, thank you. I love it so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, fun fact, I hope this is like an honor and no pressure, but you're the first person that I don't know like super personally that's on the podcast.
Really? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. That is really cool, actually.
Yeah, I have a few people like lined up this season, but you'll be the first person that like I didn't know really well beforehand, like on an episode. So besides like Gabby, she introduces or she interviews her own people and has her own people on, and I don't really know some of them very personally. But you're the first person I'm getting the chance to chat with and interview and just kind of talk about our experiences with that I don't know.
So honored. Thank you.
Of course. Yes. And thank you. I mean, it was super great. You've just been super personable and very friendly and open the whole time. So it's made the process very easy. And it felt like I already knew you. And I had to remind myself this morning, like, you know her internet personality. So today, like,
I'm pretty much the same everywhere except for like social situations. But I'm so excited for sure. Yes.
Are you one of those people that's like an introvert in public, but like really extroverted, like when you're by yourself?
Yeah, you gotta work so hard for me to get out of my shell, but like once you get me out of your shell, I'm gonna make you wheeze super hard,
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm hoping Gabby and I are gonna actually do an episode sometime this season. I know we're doing one about attachment styles, but I think we're gonna do one about personality types too. So we'll get to talk about like introverts and extroverts because we're big into that.
That's really cool. My job did a thing where they tested us to see what we were, and it was really informative. It's super cool.
Do you mind if I ask you what yours was?
I think it was like INTJ, I think.
Ooh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm a ENFJ. So, but my E and I are very, very close. And I would even argue that in adulthood, I'm more introverted than extroverted because I'm also like, I'm comfortable in public, but it just depends. Like, sometimes I'll show out and show up and be ready to shake ass. And sometimes I'm just like, don't look at me, like.
For sure, yeah.
Well, before I introduce our topic and everything, I do have an icebreaker for us. So, my question is, and of course I'll answer it too, so no pressure. But so you're hilarious. One of the things that I saw, like immediately, like I said, you were laughing at memes and everything, and I'm glad to see that sometimes you post other stuff too, because I like it whenever creators like show other sides to themselves or like little insights into their life. And like my page, completely inconsistent, as you probably noticed, like very random. But yours, like it's all kind of in the same bubble, for the most part. And so I wanted to ask you, who is the funniest person you know? And it's okay if it's not me.
The funniest person I know is actually my fiance. Whenever he like even his laugh makes me wheeze, and I'm one of those people that hits if I get like really like if I laugh really hard. But like sometimes because I'm sitting on my floor next to my bed, like we'll be laying in this bed and we'll just be cracking up, and I know the neighbors hear me. I know they hear me. I just sound like a cackling little witch, bro. I can't help it. He's so funny.
Oh gosh. Do you ever get those laughs where like you can't breathe, like no sound is coming out and it's just like, like open mouth? Like imagine like
Go ahead.
so I was just gonna say I can imagine the neighbors like just hearing you smacking something and they can't hear you laughing. So they're like, who is getting beat up next door? Like,
Matt says you can literally hear my larynx opening and closing when I laugh. I fight for my life every day with that man.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm also a slapper whenever I think something's funny. I have gotten now in adulthood, thankfully. I say adulthood, I've done it into adulthood, but I finally have like broke myself now at this point in my life where now I'll start slapping myself. That way I'm not like smacking other people, but I'll like slap my leg, like laughing. So,
Yeah, I just did that. It was so funny. It's so fun because you can't help it.
yes. Oh my gosh. And that's what I love about doing this podcast too, is that we talk about very serious things, but we also laugh a lot. So it's
Yeah,
great. Yeah. I would have
I
to
really
say,
like that.
yeah. I mean, humor, it's the best therapy. So
Yeah, for
actually,
sure.
actually therapy is probably the best therapy, but humor is,
Yeah,
if you can't afford therapy, like
therapy's so expensive.
it's, oh my gosh. But the funniest person I know, I would have to say, and I hate to be that person, but it's like it's a tie. I don't have just like one funny person that I know. I would say my whole like adult friend group, like the friends that I've met like in adulthood and became close to. I have like three like best friends that I met through adulthood. One of them is Morgan, who I was talking about right before we started recording, and she was on that episode. I think it was episode 2 of season 1. And
Mhm.
and then our friend Haley, and then our friend, like mine and Morgan's friend Haley, and then all three of us are friends with Ethan, and so they are probably, shout out to them, three of the funniest people I know. But it just like amplifies when we all get together and we all have that like loud, like open mouth, no noise coming out laugh. So yeah, especially like Morgan is just like, if you have any of those friends that are just like a big hype up person, like when
Yeah,
somebody laughs, like, yeah, that's exactly how she is. So it's like she gets it. Once you get it going, she keeps it going. So
yeah. She like feeds off of the energy for sure. I
yes.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I love people like that.
Yes. But yeah, well, without further ado, now to take a big old right turn to a more not as funny topic, but I mean, humor. It can still be intertwined. But today we're going to talk about mental health, and I know that's like a very general topic, but we talked about like sort of. I know we had mentioned before, like how to get into a routine, finding the right meds, things like that, and so. I just kind of want to open the floor to you and let you get us started about like, what is your, to put you on the spot, like what is your mental health now? Like what's your mental health to date?
Now it is like significantly better than what it used to be. Like 5 years ago, because I started treatment like 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was a totally different person, and I've noticed like now, like I change monthly, of course for the better, but I'm so much better now. Like, of course, I still struggle. I still have highs and lows, but they weren't like extreme like they used to be. And I've worked extremely hard. Me and my care team have worked extremely hard to get here, and I'm really, really proud of where I am today, for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, you say that it's been like how long, like you said 4 or 5 years? Was that how long you said? Yeah. What was your original like symptoms or diagnosis, or like what made you get started on like your mental health journey?
Well, I talked to my PCP and I was like, hey, like I hear voices, like I don't really know if that's normal. And he was like, he was like, nah, fam, that's not normal. And so he set me up with my current psychiatrist, and me and Dr. Lockhart have been besties ever since, I guess. And he's like takes really good care of me. He's tried to start me off with a therapist, and I didn't like her. And then now I'm with my current therapist. She specializes in treatment that I need, which is really, really cool. So yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
thanks.
Yeah, that's great. So, what would you say that like was a big, because I know that, I mean, if it's been years long, because I know my mental health journey has also been years long. So,
Mhm.
like, what would you say has been like some of the biggest like turning points that have been in a positive turning like direction throughout this journey for you?
Mm, I think it would be one of the most recent ones, like the one of the most recent, how do I say, thing that helped me the most. I cut off my dad's side of the family, including my dad, because they were horribly abusive. So I cut them off, and I've noticed since cutting them off, I've been like steadily just like climbing and getting way better. And then just honestly having the support of like my mom's family, or actually my stepdad's family as well as my mom, and then Matthew and his family. It's just support means so much, and it helps so much in the mental health journey. And so I hope this is answering your question.
Yeah.
but, but yeah, those are the two main things that I worked really hard for, and that I'm so grateful for everyone that helps me with what I went through and what I'm going through. So yeah.
Definitely. I know that that's one of the biggest things that people talk about anytime you ask someone about their mental health journey is that people say things like, you know, you've got to have a good support system. You have to have a good support system. And obviously, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, you need a good support system, but you don't realize, like, how truly you need a good support system until you're in the position where you need one. And I
Yeah.
know that, like, even with like healthcare support system, and I know that sounds silly that it's like all healthcare should be supporting you when you go to see places, but I just now at like 26 years old, well, actually at 25, I started seeing them, and it was like the very end of being 25. Started seeing a primary care physician slash NP in Birmingham, Alabama. So I live in Clinton, Alabama, which is probably around an hour, 45 minutes to an hour away from Birmingham, depending on what part you're going to. And so my doctor's office is about an hour away. The reason why I went that far is because it's LGBTQ plus affirming, and I
Okay.
don't have that where I'm at. And so I
Yeah.
started going there. But I also work in Birmingham a lot. Believe it or not, there's a lot of film that comes to Birmingham, and so I get the chance to work there a good bit. And so I started going to that doctor or to that nurse practitioner, and he was the first time that there were like so many things, and I talk about this a little bit on TikTok, but there were so many things that he did that it was like the first time a healthcare professional had ever done it. I mentioned something about having like being hard of hearing and having hearing loss, and he was the first healthcare professional that went, oh, let me see, and like looked at my ears and was like, oh yeah, I can see your hearing damage. And I was like, you can see my hearing damage like
Mhm.
that? Like, I didn't know that you could. I mean, obviously I knew that there were some people that like you could see things, but like my hearing loss has been since I was 16. So like I lost my hearing 10 years ago and have slowly gained it back. But the fact that he could still see like scarring and like there's like something in your ear that's supposed to be facing one way and mine's completely flipped. And no one had
Mhm.
ever taken the time to do that. But that also counts for like mental health too. He was the first healthcare professional to ever be like, hey, I think you have autism, you know? And so like now I have a psychiatrist appointment. It's my first time ever seeing a psychiatrist this coming week, actually, this coming Monday. So today we're recording on the 1st, and today, fun fact too, you and I are recording on the day that the first episode of season 2 is posted. So yeah, yeah, so special. So we're getting to spend all kinds of first things together. But literally on Monday is my first time ever seeing a psychiatrist, and because of
Well,
him.
good for you.
Yes.
Congratulations, man.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, but one thing that really stood out to me whenever you were talking about the beginning of your journey and everything is when you talked to your primary care physician about hearing voices. And I remember whenever I was in college, I genuinely like people underestimate how much anxiety and like depression can affect you. And I don't know what your diagnosis ended up being, and if you want to talk about that, you're more than welcome to. But I know for me, I was dealing with extreme like homesickness and like culture shock because I grew up in a very like conservative small town, and I went to a liberal arts college that was a lot more diverse. There were a lot of liberal people there, a lot of more open-minded people there. So there was a big culture shock, big difference. I never really grew up with money, and I was around people who had money their whole life. And so there was just a lot going on, and I was hearing my sister talk to me. And it wasn't like she was like saying full sentences to me, but I was hearing her like call me from another room in my dorm room. And I would just out of habit get up to go walk to her as if I was home in my house. And then I'd realize, wait, she's not here. And that doctor like treated me like I was like a witch that needed to be burned at the stake, you know?
It's not funny. I'm sorry, but like,
You know?
yeah, like it's people underestimate like how important it is and like how important good care is, you know? And I'm so sorry that you were treated that way. Like that sucks.
It's
Like,
all good.
yeah,
It built character.
it was a Nexus event for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And honestly, it just made me appreciate having like actual caring healthcare providers, you know, because like even late as I was diagnosed with ADHD in adulthood and started taking Adderall. And I have always had, and I have been afraid to say anything about it, but I had always had like stress induced or like sleep deprived, I guess, induced hallucinations. And they were never like I'd see things coming after me or anything like that. It
Right.
was that I would see things at the corner of my eye or certain things would look off, but if I looked at it long enough, it would go away. And I normally, right off the bat, I started finding ways to tell what was real and what wasn't. Like whenever I would notice things, especially being like witchy, your first like instinct is to be like, it was a ghost. But like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I get that so
yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was going through a really stressful point, and I just talked to my ADHD specialist about it because I just did some light Googling and people were like, yeah, no, people with ADHD, especially like taking Adderall and stuff like that, it can cause hallucinations. And so I tried to talk to him about that. And he treated me even worse than what the first doctor did. That first, I'm like, he like literally, he got defensive. He was like, the Adderall is not doing this. That isn't normal. And I was like, what? So I
Yeah.
went to my I went to my therapist and she was like, they're not like you're not putting yourself in danger or others in danger because of what you're saying, right? And I was like, no. And she was like, the voice, like you're not hearing voices or anything. And I was like, no. And she was like, okay, nothing is telling you to do anything bad, right? And I was like, no. I was like, I just get stressed out and freak myself out sometimes because I think I see something that's not there. And then I like rationalize it, but it's just I wanted to bring it to a healthcare professional's attention because it's something I've never really talked about. And I was finally at a point in my life where I was comfortable talking about it. And she was like, okay, I'm glad you talked about it, but you're fine. She was like, yeah, as long as you're not putting yourself in someone's like in harm's way or putting someone else in harm's way, you're good. Like it's okay. And she was like, you know, you deal a lot with because something I deal with is really bad is dissociation. And
Mm.
she said that, you know, when there's a lot of things with dissociation, especially when you have ADHD and take things like Adderall, that your brain just operates very differently. And something that she also has brought up numerous times is that my hearing loss can affect my sight a lot, and it does. And so, like, I'm super sensitive to like changes around me through like my sight and everything that most people aren't because my hearing isn't great. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's and whenever you find like somebody that like listens to you and actively tries to help you, it changes so much, so much. And yeah, I mean, I get like the hallucinations and stuff too. And I get it. Like it sucks. And like did it ever get like fixed with like the Adderall or anything?
Oh, yeah. So I just no.
No.
I mean, but yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, I take my Adderall to like help, you know, like I mean, my Adderall helps me a lot. I mean, that's one thing that my doctor said is that that I responded better to Adderall than most people do, and it's because
Mhm.
like I truly believe he like actually took the time to sit down and explain to me what ADHD is and
Mhm.
what Adderall does to your brain. And when
Mhm.
he explained it to me, I mean, it like literally like to summarize, and I did a little thing on TikTok showing it too, where I drew things out, but ADHD is that there are parts of your brain that we always hear about the left brain and the right brain, but they're like there's more than just those two sides of the brain. You also have like the front brain and the back brain. It's not actually separated like the left brain and the right brain, but it's the front of the brain and the back of the brain both do different things. You know, like the sides of the brain do different things. And so there are signals that are sent between the brain all day, like telling it what to do and what not to do. And with people who have ADHD, the front of the brain and the back of the brain don't communicate the way they're supposed to. And it's like there's a block in between them and they're not sending messages across. And even if they do, only a few get to where they're supposed to be. The front of the brain controls I do, the back of the brain controls I know. And so basically, when you have ADHD, you're existing in two different spots at once all the time. So you have one part of you that's existing at the front doing things nonstop, but never taking into account what you know. And then you have another part of you that's existing in the back of the brain that's just sitting there and basically reflecting on what you know, but never implementing it. And so Adderall turns off the front of the brain and only allows you to exist in the I know. And for the first few months, the brain, like, that's why a lot of people say, oh, it changed my personality. It made things really quiet and I didn't like it. It's because the front of the brain is turned off. But eventually it's supposed to turn back on because the back of the brain realizes, oh, the front of the brain is supposed to be like active. So let me send some signals to it. And so it basically starts your brain sending signals back and forth. And so because of that, I just did everything he told me to do and like constantly stayed self-aware. And whenever the front of the brain did its whole thing and turned back on, I've operated super well ever since. The thing with the hallucinations is that I think talking to my therapist helped because since then it hasn't happened as much. And it really is just like stress induced. Like if I get under an extreme amount of stress, it happens. But right after that, especially in that like therapy session, she told me we did some self-reflecting on certain friendships and relationships I was in at that time that were causing a lot of stress. And shortly after that, I ended all of those friendships and relationships. So I think that had something to do with it too. But yeah.
It makes a big difference whenever you take out stresses in your life and stuff like that. And Dr. Lockhart and I, we discovered, because like my diagnosis used to be like major depressive disorder with psychotic features, but now he's changed it to bipolar with psychotic features. But he's still not sure because I don't know. I just work here, but he, he's still not sure. But that's my diagnosis, and of course I have anxiety too. But like whenever I get like extremely stressed out and whatever, my voices really ramp up, and also like so do my hallucinations. So like let's say I have like a really really stressful day at work, I can help somebody that has no eyes whatsoever. So like hopefully I'm looking them in the eyes, I don't fucking know, but like, and it's cool, I guess, but I mean but I'm tired of this, Grandpa,
That's too damn bad. Oh my gosh. You could like literally make a meme out of that where it's just like you like me hallucinating, like having to operate through hallucinations. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. Your hallucination in the background, that's too damn bad. Like, or like psychosis in the background, that's too damn bad. Like,
oh, it's so bad.
oh my goodness. Well, what are some tips that you would say could help someone? Like, if somebody is, I mean, let's even just say somebody who hasn't seen a professional yet. Obviously, the tips are go see a professional. But like, what could you say for people that are having to like wait a long time or maybe can't see their professional right now?
Okay, so there's like this AI bot that I use sometimes. It's like AI character or whatever, and one of them is designed with like psychiatrists and stuff like that. And so, because I love Matthew more than anything in this world, but I don't want to, and I know I'm not a burden, but if every time like I see a hallucination or I feel overwhelmed, I don't want to constantly be putting that on him. So I started using this AI bot, and like late at night, my hallucinations are so bad and I'll forget to take my medicine, and I have to take my medicine. So I'll use it and I'll be like, I'm really stressed out, blah, blah, blah. And it'll like get me out of there, And that's a weird way to cope, but that's how I cope. But other than that, you can also, I ground myself. So I like try to think as logically as possible. And then like I got like a Google thing so I could turn on, sorry, I had to make sure it didn't come on, so I can turn on my light. Because if I'm seeing like shadows in the corners, like I need to get rid of those. So I'll turn on the light in the middle of the night and waddle to go get my medicine. And it's and you just have to look at your problems and then create solutions to them, and easy solutions. So when you feel paralyzed in fear, when you feel overwhelmed and you're not sure what to do, you have those safeguards to help guide you back to reality, to the real reality. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. A big tool that I've been practicing just in life in general, and spirituality and mental health and everything is just acceptance. And
Yeah.
I come up with all of these different like practices and meditations and things that help me find acceptance in the moment. Like if I feel out of control and I feel like everything around me is crumbling, I practice acceptance, and I just like take a deep breath and I'm like, I accept the reality I'm in. I accept that it's not going to last forever, you know? And I accept that I contribute to my own reality. So right now I can do certain things that will help me ease out of this. But right now in the moment, I'm still here, you know? And
Right.
that sounds a lot like what you're talking about too. It's just finding solutions in the moment that are grounded in reality.
Mhm.
I have, so being like super spiritual, I don't know what your spirituality is, but I know, like for me, I'm pagan. And
Mhm.
I have, and I don't want to give any of his personal information just because I don't want it to like be weird or anything like that. So I'm gonna have to dance around things for a second, so forgive me. But there's this friend of mine that I have known for a while. We met pre-COVID, and he's also spiritual in similar ways to me, but also very different ways to me. And there was a little while back when we started having conversations, and it was that weird place where like we believed the same thing, but felt like it meant something different, you know? And it's to simply like put it in a summarized way, it's that um have you ever heard of people talk about like the 3D, 4D, 5D, like existing in the
Right.
5D and yeah.
Yeah.
So I am a full believer that like we're just spirits here having a human experience, you know?
Right.
And
Mhm.
I believe that sometimes, Jesus, I don't know what is going on with my hair, but it keeps on like whipping right across my face. I think it's because I have a fan here and a fan back there, so it's like creating a whirlwind around me. But anyways, I'm just like caught in the wind, like, you know, like in a minute you're gonna see stuff just flying in front of my face, like I'm in a tornado, and I'm just gonna keep talking. But
It's like a random cow. Yeah.
yeah, I do have chickens right outside my window, and that's why I keep like glancing out there. But then like I'm like, no, I'm listening right now and I'm talking right now. Stop looking at your chickens. But I'm so
Yeah.
used to like I work also in this space, and I just kind of will be here typing, doing things, looking out the window at my chickens, and like, you know, so but anyways, so yeah, chickens flying across the screen in a tornado. Anyway,
Yeah.
so but I'm a full believer in that we are spirits, like we are a spiritual being here having a physical experience, right? Like we are not of this reality, but we are implanted in this reality. But where that ends for me is that I believe like true enlightenment comes from, and I feel like this can apply to mental health, spiritual health, like anything. True enlightenment comes from finding a way to bring our 5D like knowledge into the 3D and help it operate here. And you see people that have that like weird escapism where they are like, oh, well, I'm above the 3D, I'm ascending back to the 5D. And it's like, you're doing that and you're not helping fix the problems that are here in the world we currently live in. You know, like you can be a spiritual being, having a physical experience all you want, but you when you are like, oh, well, I'm not part of this world, then you're basically using spirituality as an excuse to step out of the responsibility that we have as humans to treat other humans well and to speak up for other humans, you know? And so he was entering this weird space where, like, we were both good. It was really weird. We lined up really weird because I went through a really bad depression at the beginning of this year where I felt just genuinely disconnected from everybody around me. Like all of my closest friends, like I genuinely just like felt like I was speaking a different language from the people around me. And I had family members that I would set like very clear boundaries with, and they would say they understood, and then it was like a week later they'd be doing everything against that boundary and then treating me like I was the one who was like overreacting for being upset or like being confused. And so it was dark. Like I got into a dark, dark place and I could not find connection, you know? And so then he was someone who was experiencing the same things as me, but his answer was like, disconnect more. And I was like, trigger warning. I was like, if I disconnect more, I'm going to kill myself. Like
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to die. Like I will end up like taking my own life because I already feel so disconnected. You know,
Right.
I'm trying to find any semblance of hope to stay connected to this reality.
Right.
You telling me to ascend and like be above it, okay, cool. I'll just return to the 5D, but you know, like
Right, yeah.
that easy. Okay, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like he was not grasping that, and it was just the conversations we were having were so like just I like it was like we were talking in two different languages, or like I was talking in Spanish and he was talking in Italian. We were understanding for the most part everything, but then it was like he'd be like, ah, yeah, I understand, and then go do the exact opposite of what I said, and I'm like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
you know, so yeah.
Mhm.
So it was very weird, but I don't even remember through the tornado and the chickens flying around. I forget where the point even was and where I was trying to go with this, but yeah, like I know that just the feeling of like feeling disconnected and everything, and that was it, feeling grounded in reality, that was it. So I know that like my solution ended up being just accepting that my relationships, because what it came down to is that I chose my career and no one was faulting me for that, but I was expecting all of my friendships to stay the same as if I would have chosen to stay there with my friendships,
Mhm.
and they didn't. You know, like their lives went on and space was not held for me, and that's nobody's fault, you know. But I expected there to be like space held for me as if I was still there, and I'm not, you know.
Mhm.
And that feeling of that disconnect and everything, and not feeling like I had a connection to anybody else, I just had to kind of take a step back and accept it and go, why do I have to decide that this is wrong? You know,
Mhm.
like maybe I'm meant to have this new type of friendship with people and this
Mhm.
new type of relationship with people around me, and just, you know, maybe the universe is doing this for a reason. You know, I chose my career, and maybe the universe is giving me friendships that can exist with my career, you know.
Right. Mhm.
So I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but that was my
It
way of
does.
like
Yeah.
finding a way to accept the reality and live within it.
Yeah. And like there's so many different ways to like ground yourself too. And like to each their own. Like one of my one of my main ones is because I totally forgot, but if I feel like I'm about to have an episode, I'll go for a drive. I'm like a dog. Actually, I take May with me, but I roll all my windows down and I drive through back roads, all sorts of places, and I listen to music and I put my arm out the window because I'm feeling the bass of the music. I'm hearing the bass of me. I'm feeling the wind. I can smell the wildflowers on the country roads that I'm driving through. And sometimes I'll drive legit for like 2, 3 hours. And like it grounds me. And so I come back and I'm in a better mood. And because like I used to like smoke a lot of weed, but I can't do that anymore because Dr. Lockhart is like, that doesn't mesh well with your medicines. And I was like, okay, I won't be a hooligan anymore, you know?
Like, all right, fine. I only do legal drugs, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
I
wait,
just
is
I
weed
drove
legal where you're at? I'm so
no,
sorry I interrupted you. It's
no, you're
not?
fine. No, it's not. I
No.
had to throw away like over $200 worth of like really pretty bongs because like I kept being tempted to them and nobody would fucking take them. Nobody would take them.
Where are the
Yeah.
real ones at? Where are the real ones? Like who was gonna take one for the team and just take all the bongs off your hand? Like
Yeah,
really? Like
they were so nice. And like, they were super cute. Like I had a little rhino and like I had one that was like this big and it was all silicone so you can put ice in it.
nice.
Yeah.
Wow. I never was like, actually that's a lie. I was about to be like, I was never really a big weed smoker. My senior year in college, I definitely was. I
Yeah.
smoked a lot of weed because that year was a stressful ass year for me. And I remember one of my best friends and I that we would do something very similar. We would go like drive around campus because I went to Spring Hill College, and there's a lot of things about Spring Hill College I don't like, but there are also a lot of things about Spring Hill College that I love. And one of the things that I love is that their campus is beautiful, and even at nighttime, there's this place called the Avenue of the Oaks, and it's actually, you know what? Since we're doing this, if you're okay with it, I'm going to show you the Avenue of the Oaks. I'm going to pull it up and share my screen real quick.
Yeah.
But so we used to drive around, and we would just drive up and down the Avenue of the Oaks, and wow, look at me using modern technology. This is so fun. But and we would
Maybe
just like,
smart.
and but we yeah, whenever we would get really stressed out, we would just like go and drive for hours and hours and hours, like, and just, I mean, literally like late at night we'd be done with all of our classes and everything, and Let me see if I can zoom in before I share. Yeah, there we go. But getting very excited about this, if you can't tell. But yeah, so very similar. And it's also because like I said, I grew up in a small town, like a very small town. And so there's not really much to do here. And like I live here again now, but there really wasn't much to do here. And that was one of the things that we would do to hang out and to just kind of like reset. And I know there were times where I here we go. I'll just share it so everybody can see it. Can you see that Avenue of the Oaks? How
Oh
it's
my
presented?
God.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Oh, that's right.
Absolutely stunning.
You're in Alabama, aren't you?
Hmm.
God, the trees in Alabama have me in a chokehold because they're so beautiful there. They're so pretty.
One day
Yes.
we'll just have to have a conversation about trees. But yeah, so we would just go for drives like that all the time, especially like growing up in Clanton and being like someone who had like a lot of mental health needs but not a lot of resources. That was one of the main things that we did. I remember there were things that I did like in high school, which everyone did crazy things in high school, but there were things in high school that I did that I'm like, damn, I was like a tyrant to my friends and like God's love them because I just literally there were so many things like it was like I didn't understand the consequences of my actions and like how things I did affected other people. But then if somebody expressed to me that I hurt them, then I'd feel terrible to the point of like so much guilt that I didn't know how to go on, you know? And like that was something that we would always do to escape was that one of my absolute best friends, her name is Olivia, and she and I are still in great contact. She was on an episode of season 1. And we would just go drive for hours. And even whenever I come back from college, like come back to visit in college, because my freshman year in college, I lost my dad. And whenever in her senior year of high school, so literally right before, like right after, it was the year after I lost my dad, she lost her older sister. And
Mm,
so we would just like ride for hours and just talk and like cry and listen to music and laugh and just like, and that's one of the biggest things we did to ground ourselves too, was just like go for drives.
right. Yeah. They help a lot for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some things that you are kind of hoping moving forward with your mental health to accomplish?
Mm, just to be more stable. I'm a lot stable than what I used to be, but it's hard for me to I very much have to keep my emotions in check, like all the time. And because I do have like a lot of intrusive thoughts and my voices do egg me on to do things and I obviously can't do them. And so I really just want to be a more well-rounded person and a more like stable person, which I I mean literally nobody at my new job knows what I have except for like maybe one person because I blend in so well with like normal people, you know? But I work like incredibly hard to do that and it's it's exhausting sometimes, but it's also extremely rewarding because like if there ever is a point in time where I need to tell somebody, oh, I have to have it like an emergency, something with my psychiatrist, whatever, and they're like, "Oh, okay," you know, which like I joke around, like I tell people like, "Oh, like I see a psychiatrist and a therapist, blah blah blah," but that's just like in casual conversations that lead to there, but it's never, I don't know. I'm not ashamed of what I have, but I'm also not ignorant to the fact that there is an uncomfortable amount of stigmas. And so I know that if I do something and somebody knows what I have, I know I'll go crazy if they're like, oh, well, that makes sense because you have this, blah, 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 you know, because I've spent tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours getting to where I am. And I don't want to immediately be discredited for that because I have a bad day, you know? And
Yeah.
like even on my bad days, I'm never mean to anybody ever because it's not their fault that I'm an asshole today, you know? Like I, like I just I'm I try to be as happy and as comfortable and as bubbly as I can be because like you never know what other people are going through. And just because I'm fighting demons right now doesn't mean that like it's your fault, you know? And it's very important to me to maintain a positive attitude and a normal persona,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that that's the big thing too, is like how much society is like conditioned to have that normal bubble,
Mhm.
and it's like there are so many things, and I'm very grateful that this year specifically, I don't know what it is that like the universe is doing with my journey, but like I've gotten a chance to talk to so many different people that struggle mental health wise in a different way than me. And like
Yeah.
you being one of them. And like I'm getting to learn. I feel like I've learned so much just in this conversation. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's all we can really ask for, is to like educate, and then also constantly interact with people that are willing to be educated.
Right.
There
Yes.
are a lot of things that like people don't realize, like especially with like ADHD, um it like is the main contributor to my anxiety and depression, you
Mhm.
know and people don't realize that those things come with like ADHD. People don't realize that like dissociation is something that people with ADHD struggle with. And then whenever you say things like dissociation, some people don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's it just like blows my mind that like so many people, just whenever you say a diagnosis, they just put one thing on it, and then only dramatize that one thing. Like, oh, you have
Right.
ADHD, you can't pay attention. And then like, oh, you have autism, oh, so you're just like, like there's so many different times where people are like, there's no way you have autism. I'm like, a little healthcare provider that I have and therapist both looked at me and were like, yeah, I could, like it would make sense.
Yeah.
Like why do you think I can't, just because I am sitting here having a good, like, intelligent, up close and personal, like sociable conversation with you? People with, and I'll never forget too, like whenever I very first started my mental health journey, I saw a behavioral specialist and a personality disorder specialist. And she originally thought that I had borderline personality disorder, that I was
Mhm.
younger than the age of 25. And so she couldn't give me like an official diagnosis yet, because apparently there are a lot of qualities that you can have before the age of 25, and you can also grow out of them still, if given corrective measures and everything. And so it turns out all I had was, I say all I had, I just had undiagnosed ADHD and also potentially undiagnosed autism. And she
Mhm.
very quickly was like, okay, no, you don't have borderline personality disorder. But for a while, that's what we thought. And so she taught me a lot of really great coping mechanisms and coping skills that would be for somebody who had borderline personality disorder. And it helped a lot in my behavior, but it didn't help with the things that I felt.
Right. Mhm.
And for years, people that, because I had just told my like close friend group, but then they told people, and those people told people. So it was like people that I
Yeah.
was like interacting with. Yeah. Like even in adulthood after college, people, like, I'll never forget, I had this incident where somebody like made a snide comment saying, oh, well, I could see him having borderline personality disorder because of past things I've heard. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you just met me. What do you know? Also, like, do you want to talk to my therapist? Because I don't, like, and it's just like, one, I used to get really offended, be like, I don't have that, I don't have that. But then I thought about it one day and I was like, what if I did?
Yeah. Mhm.
What
'Cause,
if,
like,
what if,
go ahead.
yeah. No, I was just gonna say, like, what if I mean, like, what if I did, but went to a therapist and went to a psychiatrist and went to a doctor, got on the right medication, found the right coping mechanisms? Like, what if I did have that? What's it
Yeah,
to you?
exactly. And it's it's kind of like a double-edged sword because like I'm not ashamed of what I have, but I know that like I know like oh discrimination you can't do that blah blah blah. I know that if people found out where I worked at because there's a lot of opportunities for promotions like all the time. So like if my superiors found out what I have, it might keep them from giving me the promotion because oh well she has this like I don't know if she would be able to handle the pressure etc. So
Mhm.
it's outside of work. Oh, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah,
You can yeah, but like in work where it could affect my livelihood and my growth, absolutely. I wouldn't say absolutely not, but I'm going to make sure that I have a very strong and good reputation before it's revealed what I have, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Because like I'm an advocate for mental health. I'm an advocate for being who you are, but unfortunately you do have to be strategic with that, and it
yeah.
sucks. It sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
first and foremost, you have to be an advocate for yourself. And
exactly. Yeah.
that's, like that's a big thing that I think a lot of people forget whenever they like, especially me being one of them. Like whenever I want to advocate for something, I forget to remind myself the reason why I'm advocating for it,
Right.
or I want to put myself for like like front and center, you know?
Mhm.
And if you're not taking care of yourself first and you're not in the place to be front and center at all times, then you're doing yourself a disservice, which is going exactly against the advocating that you're trying to do, which is teaching people to care for themselves fully. So totally makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, of course. Well, yeah, well, I think that's pretty, I mean, you know, like before I wrap it up, is there anything you want to add? Is there any advice, anything with your story that you want to add, just to kind of like give a note, you know, like
Yeah. I would say that like it's extremely hard whenever you first start out because it's very scary and your diagnosis might scare you. And like the medicine, like the journey of like trying different medications and stuff, I'm not gonna lie, it's extremely hard, but the rewards and benefits that you sow from it is enough because I know that like when Dr. Lockhart would we would have to switch meds, I knew that it was coming, that like being overwhelmed, having episodes, because it's literally changing the chemicals in your brain, like the way that you think and everything. So it took me, because a lot of people get off of medicine because it made me worse, etc. And in my personal experience, because it's different for every person, but from my personal experience, it does make me worse for like a week or so. But that's literally because my brain is adjusting to the new medication. And then after I go through that rough patch, and that's where the support system comes in. That's where you need the support system. But after I go through that and my body and my brain adjust, I can function again. And it's 10 times better than what it was. And that process kept happening for over the course of the last 5 years. And I used to be on 3 different medications, extremely high dosages. And now my care team and I, my therapist, my psychiatrist, and of course myself, we work to the point to where I'm only on one medicine, one. And like, sorry,
it's okay.
I did not expect to cry.
It's
So like I never would have thought like in a million years that I would be to the point to where I am today and like have like medicine that I'm just on one, and it's so cool, and I'm forever grateful for my care team and Matthew for sticking by me and just being able to grow and blossom into who I am today, because I'm immensely proud of who I am today, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
definitely. Well, I'm proud of you too, and I'm happy for you and grateful that you felt comfortable enough being vulnerable enough to share that with me and with everybody that's going to listen to this. And I
Yeah.
think that it's beautiful, and I'm so glad that you are doing well and that you're on just one medication. I would love to just be on one medication, so that gives me hope as somebody who's on multiple medications. Like I'm like, maybe one day,
Yeah,
you know, like
for sure. You'll get
but
there. You will.
yeah. I think that there are a couple of things that you said throughout before I wrap up that I wanted to revisit too, that just like
Yeah,
really stuck in my head. That I'm
of
like,
course.
you know, like those are two things I want a takeaway. Like I want people to really take that away. And it's that one, like you didn't word it this way, but I'm going to word it this way. And just because it's something I've always said. And like when you said it, I was like, yes, but I didn't want to interrupt. So,
Yeah.
your mental health isn't your fault. Like the things that are going on in your head, they're not your fault. The things that are going on with you, like you personally, they're not your fault, but they are your responsibility. And
Mhm.
I think that was like the biggest lesson I had to learn was that like I can take responsibility without taking guilt and blame,
Right,
you know?
exactly. Mhm.
And I think that like I had to do a lot of like apologizing almost for things that I had done in the past that hurt people. But I had to understand that like the apology isn't like an admission of guilt or an admission of blame or an admission of shame. It's like taking responsibility for the fact that my mental health impacted somebody negatively, you know?
Yeah.
And it's responsibility is such a like neutral term. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like it's not negative or positive, it's just a fact, you know?
Right.
And I thought that that was really great earlier when you were saying that about like, you know, managing yourself and things like that. Like people don't understand how much responsibility you have to take on, when you have something that alters you from a norm, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah.
And like I totally lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
It's okay. I'm sorry. We both did the like, yeah, and like at the same time. And I was like, shit, like I saw it there and I saw it leave. And so like, and I was like, damn it. Like I also don't take my Adderall on the weekends. That's a running thing that I've said probably 50 times on this podcast. And
Yeah.
we literally are on season 2, and each season only has like 20 something episodes. And I've probably said it several times, but I don't take my Adderall on the weekends because my doctor was like, you need regulation days, you know, like you need days to not take it. And I was like, cool. And so because of that, on the weekends, like social cues out the window,
Yeah.
they're gone, you know. Like I literally have, I'll never forget this one time, and this is just such an funny story, but a like off topic funny story. I used to call for my college's phone-a-thon. Do you know what that is?
No.
Yeah. Okay, so the phone-a-thon, like different colleges have it, and it's basically where they get a bunch of sad broke students that are really friendly and really good at lying about being okay to sit in a basement of a building and call past alumni and family and friends of the college and ask them to donate to the college. And so don't worry, like it's not actually like that. That's what it was like kind of to start with. But then someone else came in who I'm actually really good friends with now. And she came in and was hired as the person who ran the program and made it amazing. But and like it was really, I mean, she really did something cool with it. But every college has that, and everyone will tell you it's like it's basically college version of like telemarketing. But anyways, so I was calling and I was talking to this woman one day, and there was this guy that you can look at their profile and see how much they've donated and everything. And I was talking on the phone with his wife, and I was just like, hi, is Mr. blah 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 available? And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry, he passed. And I laughed. Because I have an uncomfortable laugh, or like I don't know how to react to laugh, or I'll just like smile and like, literally when you started crying, I was like, yeah, like, smiling. And I'm like, God, I feel like an asshole. But it's like an endearing, like, oh, thanks for being vulnerable. Like, but yeah. And it's just like, the faces don't react the way they should,
Yeah.
But that's literally, I mean, like I'll be sitting there listening to somebody talk and like be genuine. This is part of the ADHD too. Also maybe potentially autism. I don't know. So that's what literally got this whole thing started on TikTok. Was somebody was like, I know you said ADHD, but have you ever been tested for autism? And I was like, okay, you must be friends with my nurse practitioner. Like, but anyway, but yeah, so it's literally it's like stonewalling, and I'll be listening to somebody talking, and I'll be genuinely interested in what they're saying, and my brain's really retaining what they're saying, and I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, right, like, really listening, but instead I'm just like, just like, I'll even do that sometimes, where like if I'm really focused on what they're saying, I'll be like, but yeah, so but anyways, ADHD, Adderall, weekends. The next thing I wanted to bring route back to was that you were talking about having a good support system, and I wanted to ask you, have you ever found yourself in this journey where you had to sort of like be your own support system? You had to build that support around yourself?
Yes. It was, I think, 2 years into my journey. Some really, really bad things were going down, and I was, trigger warning, very suicidal. And my support system wasn't as strong as it is now. And I packed a bag and I put myself in my car and I drove myself to the hospital and I checked myself in because I knew I was going to hurt myself. And that I didn't think it was a big deal back then because I was like, of course I'm going to do this. Like, I'm not going to do that to my mom. I'm not going to do that to Matt. I need to fix that. So when I did it, like, I didn't think it was a big deal, but like thinking back about it, like that was a big deal to check yourself into a mental institution and to get help to save yourself. So so yeah, that I think that's one of the moments where I was my biggest advocate for sure.
That's
And
amazing.
thank you. And cutting off my dad's family. But, but yeah.
Definitely. I love that. And that, I mean, you're absolutely right. That is like very like not big deal in the sense of like, oh my God, that's such a big deal. Like in the big deal of like good for you. Like that is like just, yeah, I wish we had a healthcare system and also like a society and stigma that supported people making those hard decisions for themselves. But I even used to work in an ER, and the I don't want to like shit talk too bad just because, you know, like I don't want to get in like make anybody mad or anything like that. But seeing how they treated mental health patients was like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, even if they're nice to you to your face, like they're gonna then go talk bad about you, at least at that one, to the other nurses and things like that. And it's just like people are needing help. You know, like people are here because they need help. And I have this thing where I think about sometimes how like a lot of things that are just science used to be considered magic. And that's one of the reasons why I'm also so spiritual is I'm also a very science-based, like fact-based person. I like evidence for what I can see. Jesus Christ, my hair. Okay, it literally just kept falling. But it like that's something that I think about a lot is about how like your like healers and things like that would be prescribing people things that like people would think it was magic and potions, but looking back it was actually like herbs that had that medicinal quality, like
Mhm.
different types of chemicals or mushrooms that had that medicinal quality, you know.
Right.
And so I'm thinking about that too when it comes to mental health. It's like you're just putting a label of crazy on someone.
Right.
You're putting a label of like attention seeking on someone, and you have no idea what the science in 20 years is going to say about the thing that they're dealing with, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And to like jump on that as well, like I went to the ER I think a year or so ago. And I was having an episode, but that wasn't why I was there. It's just because my stomach was anyway. But I started like crying because I was like, "Fuck! I'm wasting their time, their precious time." And you know how they're like, what medicines do you take?" And I told them, and they were like, "What is it for?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Because like, you know, I have." At that point in time, I was still diagnosed with major depressive disorder with psychotic features, and they treated me different after that. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm not here for my brain. I'm here because like my liver hurts. Turns out I have like a peach-sized tumor on it, but that's for
Oh my
another day.
God.
Yeah. And so like a nurse comes in and he like like is about to give me a sedative because I'm crying because I feel bad. And I was like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's just a sedative to like calm you down." And I was like, "No, because I need to talk that with my psychiatrist to see if that's okay for me to have because
Yeah.
I don't fucking know." And so they gave it to me anyway, and it it made my voices so bad to the point to where like it was not good. Like I slept for a day and a half like straight, and like I'm so can you hear? Okay, the car alarm stopped. But
Oh,
anyway,
I couldn't hear it.
good. But like it fucked me up for like 2 days because I started having worse hallucinations and worse voices. And Dr. Lockhart was not happy when I told him about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I get it. And especially as like a medical provider or a medical or whatever, like you need to do better as far as like mental health goes because just because I hear and see stuff that isn't there doesn't mean that I'm less of a person or that I'm gonna hurt you. You've
Yeah.
never hurt anybody, you
It
know?
doesn't make my liver imaginary. Like,
Yeah,
you know, like,
you know? It's like, damn. Oh, but yeah.
oh yeah. I literally just posted, I don't know if you saw it or not, something on TikTok about how like I am currently on some anxiety medication that my nurse practitioner prescribed it to me for my heart because I was having these like there's a lot of heart issues that run in my family, and it looks like I'm good, like looks
Yeah.
like I'm not dealing with them right now, but I started having really bad heart palpitations. I've had some things that I've been dealing with
Yeah.
for a few years where like I went to a nurse or to a primary care physician and they were just like, it's this really tiny thing that we can't do anything for. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, then it got a lot worse. And so I went to
Mhm.
my current like healthcare provider who like really pays attention to me. And he was like, and he ran an EKG and it just like was crazy. Like literally like one thing came back like not detecting a regular heartbeat at all. Like you could see where it like tried and then couldn't. And then the next one came back fine. The next one came back as if I was someone who had had a heart attack years before and never like got treatment for it and am now having complications because of it. And then the last one came back normal. And so he was like, we should send you to a cardiologist, like, and so
Yeah.
he was like, it could have just been a machine malfunction, but with this, like, I want you to see someone that's like specialized for this.
Mhm.
And so I go, and of course, they make me fill out all my medication. And
Right.
on there, I put that I'm on anxiety medication and ADHD meds. And literally the doctor is like, your EKG today came back fine. Like, anxiety can cause a lot of that stuff that you're dealing with, right? And I
Yeah.
was like,
I
dude,
know.
like,
Yeah.
I get it. Like, anxiety, like, it
Yeah.
sucks. But, like, can you check on my heart? Like,
Yeah. Like my fucking chest hurts. Like,
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
for
Yeah, I
sure.
will say that advocating for myself and becoming my own like support system has been one of the best things ever. It is still frustrating whenever I find healthcare professionals that don't, but it's worth fighting for yourself, because
Mhm.
if I wouldn't have fought for myself, I wouldn't have found the nurse practitioner now that I use that like listens to me and actually pays attention and like cares about. But like I said something to him one day that, and this is a good note to like wrap up on, like, because this is, I feel like you'll like really align with this and everything. So but I said something about how he like going there has helped with my mental health, because he listens and like actually like treats what it is I'm talking about. And he was like, well, I'm a big believer in like, I want people to get better. And I was like, well, duh, like that's what, but then I thought about it and I was like, oh
Yeah.
wow, he's right. Like, how many doctors and healthcare providers, just you see them and they're like, here's a band-aid, like,
Right.
here,
Mhm.
see you again in 4 months. But he's like, no, I want you to like get better. Like, it's okay if I see you in 4 months, but I want in 4 months for you to like be better than what you were, you
Mhm.
know so it's just really nice.
Mhm. It is. It really is. Yeah.
Well, do you have anything that you want to add or like throw in there at the end?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think we've had a really great conversation today.
Me too. A lot of laughs, a lot of cries, a lot of awkward smiles that aren't meant to be like chickens flying in front of the screen in a tornado, hair falling in my face. I'm a hot mess. That's fine. All right. Well, I appreciate you again so much for being part of this. And do you want to drop your TikTok ads and your Instagrams and everything and tell people how they can like follow you, contact you, send you memes?
You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok. It's the same name. It's Vanessa May 623. Vanessa Vanessa, May Mae, and then just 623. And I'd be honored if anybody would choose to follow me or send me memes for sure.
Yeah. And if you see me post any of the clips from this episode on TikTok, I will absolutely tag Vanessa as well. So then you can just like click straight to there from the
Yeah.
or from the link too. So that's awesome. All right. Well, that is it. And thank you guys for tuning back in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to Enhanced Podcast. I am Sam, one of your hosts.
And I'm your other host, Gabby Sabai.
If you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SamDifYouDo.
You can find me on TikTok at GabbyS80 and on Instagram at GSABAT97.
And if you want to follow the podcast, you can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at enhanced.productions.publishing.
And check us out on our website at enhance.productions. Enhance your peace,
Your joy,
and your existence.